girlfriend who stabbed boyfriend 108 times in marijuana-induced episode, smoked Strand with more than 30% THC. Okay, now let me first preface this by saying they use the word strain in here multiple times. I used the word strain on James Loud yesterday a few times, referring to when we would use that terminology back in 2004. And man, like the language police got on me and said I had to use cultivar. So maybe you guys can get on this journalist. I don't know, but that's the way it's written. So I'm just going to read how it was written. Lawyers for the California woman who avoided prison time after fatally stabbing her boyfriend 108 times in a marijuana-induced psychotic episode have revealed that she consumed a strain of the drug with a THC level of more than 30%, significantly higher than the average dose. Brian Spector, 33, consumed a marijuana strain with 31.8% THC when she stabbed her boyfriend, Chad O'Melia, to death in 2018, her attorney said. The defense of the cannabis-induced psychosis was based primarily on the testimony of both the renowned psychologist, Dr. William Wershing, and prosecution expert, Dr. Chris Monahandy. Her attorney, Michael Goldstein, told Fox News the strain had a warning label indicating that it was for high tolerance users only, since its THC content was above the average level of between 18 and 24%. I guess 18 and 24% has become average now. Ventura County Supreme Court Judge David Worley ruled that Spector, how do you say that name? I don't know. Spejector? I'm just going to say Spejector? I don't know. Had no control over her actions in the involuntary manslaughter case. The defense presented in court was not a con job, as some have described it, Goldstein said. In a state of unconsciousness, Spejector also stabbed her dog and then herself repeatedly after deputies were called into their apartment. Wilshire and Mohandy were among 4 experts whose work was cited in the trial who said Spejector's violence was unpredictable and unforeseeable, Goldstein said. Spejector had only smoked weed less than half a dozen times before the fatal stabbing. She only smoked weed 6 times before the 7th time. Don't think you're safe on the 5th or 6th time. It could be the 7th time that you go into your psychotic episode. As far as DUI is concerned, her lawyers were asked to describe the difference in her case in a fatal drunk driving crash, which Goldstein chalked up to awareness, noting that Spejector did not know what she was getting herself into, as Molia provided the pot and did not show her the warning label. As far as a DUI is concerned, that person knowingly and consciously drinks to the excess and decides to get behind the wheel of a car, he said. In Ms. Spejector's case, she took a hit of what she believed to be a legal consumer product in the sanctity of Mr. O'Melia's home as they sat on the couch with no plans to go driving home that evening. Goldstein described O'Melia as a well-documented, experienced, and chronic user of the potency of high-potency cannabis. Okay? Chronic user. I wonder if that was a pun. That came with the responsibility. With that information, Ms. Spejector could have made an informed decision, and this tragedy could have been avoided, he added. Outside of the courthouse, O'Melia's father, Sean O'Melia, said the system completely failed his son. After being convicted by a jury of involuntary manslaughter, Spejector received just 2 years probation, 100 hours of community service, and no prison time. The judge didn't do his job, Sean O'Melia said. He didn't do what he was responsible to do. Marijuana is legal in California for prescribed medicinal users over the age of 18 and for recreational users over 21. Miss Spejector is broken and remorseful for what happened to Chad, Goldstein said. She will never again live a normal life, and her medical license and ability to help other deaf people is at risk. Okay, so let me go ahead and start my rant by saying this. Stop putting all this significance on THC percentage. Listen, THC percentage is not the sole factor. When you make a pie and you list the ingredients on the side of the pie, right? Okay, one of the ingredients might be sugar. Okay, if you take that sugar out and you put it into a pie pan and you just start eating it, you're not eating pie. You're just eating sugar. So when you isolate and you say, oh, this THC percentage was this high, so this flower automatically had to be really exceptionally good or get you really exceptionally high or have this effect to it. That's not true. That's false. You guys are making that up. These lab tests and all these things that are going on with this THC percentage and how consumers are buying cannabis it's a creation of our own doing. Trust me, and I'm going to take responsibility for it, for sure. I was one of those people that were like, oh yeah, THC percentage, before we knew about all the entourage effect and the other cannabinoids. But there are cultivars that will test very low on THC percentage. And if you consume them, they will make your heart race and it will make you feel like you're having high energy and panic and things like that. It has nothing to do with THC. So for us to understand more of this, we have to do more research. We have to legalize the plant to open up more research. We have to federally legalize. We have to have interstate commerce. We have to open up and drop all of these barriers in order to understand this plant better, to where we can now have educated conversations about THC and other cannabinoids and how they affect the body, how they affect the mind. Not these BS studies about this psychosis that some doctor came up with and now everybody holds up in every situation and says, oh, high potency marijuana causes psychosis. That's BS. I'm saying that right now. Luke Scarmazzo, that is straight BS. Stop regurgitating false science and let's get some real science behind this plant, and then we can all really make informed decisions.
Okay.
I know why.
Nobody can come.
Go ahead, Yarrow.
Nobody can come over the top of that. So Luke has given you the serious. I will give you the barely serious. Okay. First of all, I'd like to know what brand that was. Because that's a killer strain, obviously, and they are slaying it. But bomb. And the thing is, we need to be a little bit more compassionate, because we found out in the article that she's hearing impaired, which means that as she was stabbing him 108 times, she just couldn't hear him say that she had already hit the mark, right? He was like,
she thought, hold on, Yarrow, I think she thought she was stabbing him with a shake weight.
The thing also is, I want to know if she was charged with cruelty to animals, because she stabbed the dog. Mm-hmm. And I don't know this guy, but I definitely know that there is not a canine out there that deserves that type of treatment and torture. I do think that it sounds like her sentence, I question, and I hate to say this, but I feel like if she had been male, the sentence would have been greater. I mean, if domestic abuse is a real thing, but she got off a little light, it seems like. And then I can't help but think about how these kinds of cases set back the destigmatization of cannabis about 40 years. This defense just bothers me. The attorney who chose to run with it bothers me. I don't know that we have science to support this. And it seems like they're just playing to the headlines.
I think I figured out why she was able to skate this case, Yarrow. I'm willing to bet that there was some cannabis operator that was on this jury, and because his name was Chad, is the reason why she got away with it. Because she was killing the Chads. That's why.
Let's just say that we have already celebrity brands with convicted rapists. Let's hope this lady doesn't get out of jail and become the next celebrity brand.
Bro, she's the Chad killer, bro. She's the Chad killer. I'm just saying, you can't make this up.
Let's not forget that somebody did die here, and there's somebody's son that passed away in this situation. So I don't want to be like the rainer on the parade type situation, but there was a tragedy that happened here, and it's sad how it's blamed on THC. It's sad how it's blamed on cannabis, and people who are familiar with cannabis and its usage will tell you that this had nothing to do with THC. This had nothing to do with cannabis or the number of times that she had used cannabis. This was a situation where we had somebody who had some severe mental health issues and needed help in whatever capacity. And I don't know what the situation was with her boyfriend, but listen, it's a tragedy all around. And to continue to mesh cannabis into it in the way that the news is doing it and the way that has been done by doctors and these studies is just it's tragic. And we need to switch that narrative. We need to switch that narrative off of this is caused by THC and drill down and say, hey, how do we help people in these situations, and then totally have a separate conversation about THC and cannabis.
No, I agree with you, Luke.
You're so right.
It is a tragedy, and we do want to be mindful of the family, because there is someone that did lose their life in this tragedy. But at the same time, like this is the fact that she was able to get off with this type of a defense is just mind-boggling to me.
Absolutely,
and you're right, Luke.
System.
Mm-hmm.
My natural inclination when faced with uncomfortable or sad topics is to make a joke about it, whether it's landmines or a Holocaust. Humor is the way that I approach even things that are not funny. But to your point, there's a loss of life here. There's a family missing a son. There is real pain and suffering and avoidable sadness that occurred. And it reminds me of that article that we covered here with the guy who tried to open the airplane door while the airplane was up in the air, and then tried to use the
blame it on the
defense.
mushrooms. Yeah.
And I think that, there is a legitimate conversation that should be happening about the increased potency of cannabis and what that does and how that's different than, say, the weed that was smoked at Woodstock. And Luke, to your point, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. We have a lot of people with mental health issues in this country that are being untreated or undertreated, and we see it show up
overtreated.
In a lot of crime.
Overtreated even.
Or overtreated. And we see that show up in a lot of crime, from a lot of crazy crime, a lot of tragedy, a lot of death. And so as a society, as a country, it would be awesome if in the near future, mental health treatment and access to those types of services, if we could lower those barriers to entry so that people could get the help they need, so that less people are impacted by those people's conditions.
Yeah, and a lot of times what it is people with mental health conditions are self-medicating with cannabis. It's not necessarily that cannabis caused them to have these psychotic breaks or to have these episodes. It's like they found a plant that was helping them to be more tranquil and peaceful, and it doesn't work 24 hours a day. Sometimes they don't have access to it 24 hours a day. And I'm not saying that was the case here, but I'm saying that is the case sometimes. Is sometimes we have a lot of people who are self-medicating, and they want to make a causal correlation to cannabis and the offense, and that just isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
It does also sound like when she stabbed the dog, she might have just been trying to dispose of the only witness. So I can understand where her mind was at there for a second.
Oh boy, she thought her dog was a snitch, but